Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Massive matchup, Adil, as college football fans. Just an exciting matchup. Oregon heading on the road to the big house playing Michigan. You look at this Oregon team, they've been a buzzsaw the last couple of weeks. They've legitimately looked like the best team in the country. Michigan, not so much, but showing some life in the second half of that football game against Michigan State on the offensive side of the ball. What I'm most excited for is Oregon going into a really hostile environment, new Big Ten opponent against what is a very good Michigan defense. What does this Oregon offense look like? Fired up to get into it before we do it, as always. And I think most importantly, let it fly in the comment section. Y'all know these are two programs that we talk a lot about. Boys are Michigan fans. We talk a ton of Oregon football. The Oregon fans have shown a ton of support to the boys. We've been waiting to break down this game for a long time, so let it fly in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, hey, if any Oregon fans are making their first trip to Ann Arbor, let us know in the comment section. Dill, you have a lot of experience in Ann Arbor. You can let them know some good spots to eat, some good spots to tailgate, so let it fly in the comment section. Let's get into this matchup. Dill, I think you got to start with this Oregon offense going up against this Michigan defense. What I want to get into the most is this is a very, very aggressive Michigan defense, and to a point, a frustratingly aggressive Michigan defense where they let misdirection sometimes beat them. You're looking at an Oregon team under Coach Will Stein that is brilliant at using misdirection, getting their playmakers in space. Where do you think this matchup starts with this Oregon offense going up against this Michigan defense?
Yeah, I still think it starts with Oregon's ability to run the ball. I think that's what's kind of transitioned their offense from looking like okay to start the year to looking like a real weapon. And I think a lot of it is I think they've taken some pressure off the pass protection and slowed teams down in the pass rush. So I'm looking again, if Michigan can really sit on them and stop the run, I think that gives them a chance to tee off and get a little bit aggressive. But if Oregon can run the ball, I think you've looked like they just don't really look stoppable when both things are going because they can attack downfield with guys like Evan Stewart, obviously can work the middle through their tight end room and Tez Johnson. And when they're running it, they're just a really complete offense to really deal with.
So that's a good point. That wouldn't have been my first matchup I'm looking at, but you're kind of spot on. What has changed with this Oregon offense over the last couple of weeks when it's hit its stride? Running the football on first and second down and having success doing it. You go back to when Oregon was struggling the first 2 weeks on offense, a lot of negative plays, a lot of penalties, not really running the football well on first and second down, not staying on schedule. When you have this Oregon offense on schedule, second and shorts, third and shorts, they're a very hard team to deal with. That probably is a big key in this game. How many third and longs can Michigan create? And then can they actually go make some game-changing plays when they get Oregon in those spots? Though what I'm looking at the most, and I think this is such a massive story, I think it's the biggest storyline in this game, or at least this matchup here, Michigan tackling in space. This has been something Michigan was so good at in 2023 and has really struggled at in 2024. And you look at this Oregon offense and say they've thrown the football for 2,300 yards on the year. 1,400 of those yards, well over half of those yards, have come after the catch. I don't think there's a better offensive coordinator in the country at designing and getting his playmakers in space, allowing them to get after the catch, than you see with Will Stein. Bill, that's how Oregon wants to run this offense. Michigan has not been good tackling in space. Guys like Makari Page uncharacteristically missing some tackles. If Michigan wants to stay in this football game, they're going to have to bring guys like Tez Johnson, Kenny Sadiq down in space. Can they do that? We'll find out Saturday afternoon here.
In that, to me, it's a combo of both just executing, making tackles, but also you've kind of seen when you talk too much aggression. I think you're kind of right. It's you see them crowding the line of scrimmage, rushing 5-6 guys. And that is one frustrating thing for Michigan fans like ourselves. It's man, you think you can get home with 4. You look at that defensive line, it's still the strong part. So again, I don't think Oregon's a great team to be blitzing a ton on for the reasons you mentioned. They're electric. And if you give them enough space and you're not taking it away from them, it's hard to I don't see Michigan making those type of tackles.
Blitzing is going to be really tough in this game because Dillon Gabriel, one, is really good at getting the ball out quickly, and he has wide receivers like Tez Johnson that can create space very quickly and separation very quickly. I'm kind of echoing what you said. One of the frustrating parts about this Michigan defense is We know Wink Martindale's an aggressive defensive coordinator. That's why we brought him into this program. But there's some points, like when you look at, we're going to get into the pass rush numbers for Michigan. Like, we don't really need to send 5 or 6 because we're winning with their front 4. I would like to see Michigan, kind of dedicate some more bodies out in coverage and space to try to corral all the different weapons that Oregon's trotting out there. Dill, I think the last thing I want to talk about is, can Michigan make those game-changing plays on defense? One, you've only been forcing 1.1 turnovers a game. That's 93rd in the country. I think more importantly, Michigan's been super disruptive rushing the passer. You look at the numbers, like Josiah Stewart, 27% pass rush win rate. Derek Moore, 23%. TJ Guy, 23%. We know what Mason Graham and Kenny Grant can do on the inside. I feel like they're not converting enough of those pressures into sacks. When has Oregon's offense in general struggled? When they're taking negative plays, can Michigan create some of those negative plays, those game-changing plays? Because if you're a Michigan fan, like, that feels like how you stay in this football game against what I think is the best team in the country. Let's flip the sides here. Dill, this Michigan offense showed some life in the second half. If you had a key to the game for this Michigan offense, then it's a small sample size of good stuff. But as Michigan fans, we're going to grab onto that. What do you think Michigan needs to do to have some sort of success against this Oregon defense here?
I mean, there is a sense, and it's certainly like wishful thinking as a Michigan fan, and like obviously, like everything's kind of relative. Like Michigan kind of got going on offense. It's still not pretty. You still got to grind it out. One thing I look at though, Oregon has allowed high completion percentages at times this year, especially you go to that Ohio State game. Now, the flip side is Michigan can't really challenge you down the field. So Oregon certainly didn't want to give up big plays to Ohio State and played as such. And I think we're giving Ohio State a little bit underneath. I think they can certainly sit on Michigan a little bit more. They don't really need to honor the downfield passing attack, especially if Marion Walker doesn't play. And now he hasn't even really showed a whole lot getting down the field, but he's kind of the guy I think Michigan's still looking for to be that guy. So you look like, I am interested to see can Oregon kind of take away that airspace underneath, because if Michigan can like just rhythmically pass the ball down the field, like that is kind of Davis Warren's game. There's not like he doesn't have a ton to offer, if you will, in a sense, but he is pretty good at accurately getting the ball out of his hands when he has some space underneath.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that's the exact note I had. Is like, you look at Oregon secondary, it's been elite, only 5.9 yards per pass attempt given up. That's 9th in the country, but they do give up a 60% completion percentage, which is 39th. And so like they have shown like, hey, we'll give you some of the short intermediate stuff. Can Davis Warren be consistent, take what's there and start stringing some of those drives together? That's kind of the storyline here. But I'm kind of with you. If you're Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy, just take it away. The Davis Warren threw one pass over 20 yards against Michigan State. I don't think Michigan. It was a strike. Hey, it was a strike. But I don't think Michigan necessarily has the difference makers to really test Oregon down the field. And so if you're Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy, let's play a little press. Like, let's squeeze down on this Michigan offense and make them do something they're not comfortable doing, and that's pushing the ball down the field. And I think the last storyline here, Dale, is like, does Michigan have – well, one other storyline. This Oregon pass rush has been really good, and Michigan has struggled protecting the passer at times. I thought they were actually pretty good against it with Michigan State. It's kind of a different animal when you're talking about Derek Harmon, who is like played to a very similar level that like Kenny Grant and Mason Graham are playing. Like, those are some of the better interior defensive linemen you see in the country. But then is Jordan Birch back at the tackle spot? Mateo U, Tatum. We've obviously struggled with the offensive tackle and pass protection at times. To say we as Michigan fan, can Oregon get after the passer a little bit when Michigan wants to drop back? And I think finally, like, you feel like Michigan needs a couple gadget plays, and you kind of blew it. You put some of those on film against Michigan State. It feels like for Michigan to make this game competitive and stay in this game in the fourth quarter, you're going to need a turnover and massive play on the defensive side of the football. And you feel like Michigan's got to have something in the chamber to hit an explosive game-changing play on offense. Because I'm kind of with you. Michigan consistently moving the football on this Oregon defense, don't feel a ton of optimism about. But if they can hit a few of those, trick gadget plays, it's probably how you stay in this football game against Oregon here.
Yeah, and then, I mean, obviously, I think one thing we probably should mention is they couldn't run the ball at all against Michigan State. I think, again, like, you still look at what Michigan needs to do, and they were able to do it a little bit with Orji. So they brought that second package in, and that was the only real effective running attack that Michigan was able to put on. But somehow I still think like you're not going to get a great version of Michigan consistently unless you can at least be reasonably effective running the ball in between the tackles. And like that was really disappointing against Michigan State, just their inability to get anything going there. Again, you look, I don't think Michigan has that much room for error. Like Michigan State and
No.
Oregon aren't particularly comparable. Oregon's a far tougher team. So I don't think you can have like gaps in your game if you're Michigan. So again, like if you're a team that wants to be able to run the ball like you did against USC, let's say, I think you're gonna need to be able to run the ball that sort of manner. I don't think it can be you can't have that gap. So again,
Well,
like
what
their
I would say,
offense
the
be
other
going.
thing to kind of sorry to cut you off is maybe test these linebackers a little bit with their eyes. You know, we saw some pre-snap motion, we saw some different personnel packages that Michigan threw at Michigan State, and it worked. Like as I love Devin Jackson, the Oregon fans, y'all know I love Devin Jackson, but there's times where he gets fooled, especially when you slip running backs out of the backfield. Can you maybe go to some of that too, where we've seen Oregon maybe struggle with in the past? Yeah, Michigan's going to have to find something. And because, again, this Oregon team's going to score points. And so Michigan's going to need to find something on offense to stay in this football game. Let's get into the pick your deal. 13.5-point dogs for Michigan at home. Who you got here?
I almost love the sound of that as Michigan because I thought that was going to be closer to like 17, 20 points. I look like 2 touchdowns. I don't have, I mean, I like Oregon, but like almost in my mind, I almost think that's telling me to take Michigan because I like Oregon too much. But like, I'll still probably go with Oregon at the end of the day just because I look like I don't really, I'll need to see more, frankly, from this offense. Like, again, I look at Oregon, I think they can squeeze down much harder than they have in the past. And if they can't, like, Michigan can't run the ball, and that's been like up and down all year. The offensive line's just not the same as it was. I don't really see their path to scoring a lot. And you look, I don't think Oregon's going to get stopped by a ton of teams. Oregon probably gets to like 30 points. I'd feel really good about them covering 13 and a half.
So you like Oregon, even though
Yeah.
your brain might be
Yeah,
playing
but
some
that's
tricks on
just
you.
because like I looked at it and was like, whoa, that's way too
Yeah,
low.
see, it seems low to me. I'm going to take Oregon as well, and for me, it comes down to consistency. Like you've just seen so many fits and starts from this Michigan offense, and over the last 5 weeks for Oregon on offense, like, you haven't really seen that. And I think Oregon will be able to find some explosive plays because Michigan's defense has been giving up some explosive plays. I think it's the yards after the catch that win this Oregon team the football game. That we have struggled to tackle in space, and Oregon will kill you if you don't tackle these playmakers in space. Give me Oregon. You just got to trust your eyeballs. Like this Oregon team is a buzzsaw, best team in the country. A
My
Michigan
eyeballs
team that
are
I
not
think
trustworthy.
that could be fair. The Michigan team that has the personnel to make this close, but at the end of the day, Oregon's been the better team, the more consistent team. I'm gonna take Oregon too. We'll close it out there. Let it fly in the comment section, Oregon fans. If you are coming to Ann Arbor, let the boys know in the comment section. We got food recommendations, kind of tailgate recommendations, but definitely food recommendations. So we'll hit you with that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.